Oh, I didn't see you there. You're here to talk about the new Mathews Arc? Well, come along. Let's talk about it. All right, so this is Cam from C&K Archery. The Mathews Arc. How can I explain that it's wild that Mathews was able to bring a totally new bow? Over the past few years, you've seen them come from an 8-limb system with a rubber dampener to the limb shift technology to now a whole new riser, whole new cam system. They've really added a whole different market for their module sets, making them comfortable. I've been pretty pleased with this bow, and in all honesty, I've never been a huge Mathews fan. Maybe some of the earlier Z7 solo cam products I personally enjoyed shooting, but when I really kind of look at everything from the Triax and Halon up, just hasn't really felt right in my hand. Now, that's not to say that the bow isn't phenomenal. All of those bows from the Triax, Halon, V3X, even up to the Lift and Lift X have been great shooting bows, but for me personally, the riser never felt right in my hand with where they placed their grip in the riser. One of the biggest things that I've found shooting these bows is that they've really reduced the reflex, and the bows, while they were already dead in the hand through the shot, they're even more dead. So some of the things that I personally like about this bow are maybe not what everybody else thinks. One, I think the grip feel is amazing. Additionally to that, they actually went ahead and added a few things here into the grip that I don't think anybody's really talking about. And if you guys kind of look right here, they put these ridges in the front of the riser. And I don't know what it is about that, but just being able to put my hand into this grip like this and being able to touch that tactile front of the riser really adds a lot to the feel of this bow when I grip it. What we're going to do is we're going to go down, shoot a couple arrows, see how this bow is actually shooting for speed, and then I'll tell you really a few more of the nuances that I feel in the bow. All right, so the Arc comes in two different versions, the 30 and the 34. We're going to be testing the 34 with a 6.5 inch brace head, 4.3 pounds, and it's 343 feet per second. We're going to test that real quick. So we're at 30 inches, 70 pounds, and a 350 grain arrow. .336. .334. And we're duplicated on 334. So about a 335. So, you know, we're a little bit slower on these. We are using a whisker biscuit, so that's going to give us about between 1 and 2 feet per second slower. So give or take, the bow's about 5 feet slower than anticipated. All right, so shooting the 34, and to be honest, when I'm testing bows, I like a longer axle bow over a shorter one. The 30 inch shoots very similar. It has a little bit stiffer of a draw and a little more felt vibration. And I think that's more because it's about a 1/2 inch shorter in brace height. Got a little bit of hum in the riser, but then dissipates extremely quickly. I would say if I were to compare it to some of the newer bows as far as after shot feel, I would say it's more similar to the Mach 33 than the AX3 from Hoyt. Very common with a Mathews. It's got that want to kind of pull off the back wall so that the cam wants to kind of start turning over. So you need to be a little more honest on the back wall than with like the Hoyt or the PSE this year. Ultimately, it really feels like it wants to point. And what I mean by really wanting to point is the bow just kind of wants to sit in the same place in my hand, so it doesn't feel like it wants to torque. Especially if I compare it to like the Sicario that came out this year. It felt really good, especially for a speed bow, but there was a little bit of feeling that it wanted to kind of turn in my hand at the shot. I think a lot of that has to do with the up and down riser design. It's a lot flatter than it had been in previous years. Has about what I've measured from the Lift X to this, about a ½ inch less. And what I would recommend is going in and trying this bow, because it's a pretty phenomenal shooting bow. And again, I'm not the biggest personal fan of Mathews, but I could easily see myself shooting this bow this year. Because what I look for in a bow is, especially when I'm just shooting it at shorter ranges, which most of us when we're demoing and trying bows, is I really look at one, how honest I have to be on the back wall. I personally like more of a target bow feel where it does want to pull off the back wall like a Mathews. I also really like the way that it just wants to sit in the palm of my hand. In the past, especially with some of the shorter axle Mathews, I felt like they just wanted to turn a little bit more at the shot, which you can always take care of with stabilizers, you know, with offset brackets and kind of figuring out how it wants to sit for you. But as a naked bow, I really feel like this is something that when I started shooting 100+ yards, the arrows would just kind of want to fall where they want to fall. Again, you know, I still wish their grip was just a little bit higher in the riser for me personally, but this is a far cry from the previous few years of iterations in their bows. So I would highly recommend going out and giving this bow a try. All right, so that was just a quick test with the 34. The Arc 30, I think, feels very similar to the 34, but because of the brace height, it's a little bit shorter, I feel like I get a little bit more vibration out of this bow. But who are these bows for? Well, I think one of the biggest questions that most people are going to ask, well, I have the Lift or the Lift X, is it worth going to the Arc? And for me personally, the way that these bows shoot, I truly feel that the Arc is a big upgrade. Some people may look at it and say, hey, did they really do that much? And I think especially when you talk about the riser design and the lower amount of reflex in it, the bow feels like it wants to just stay on target. Now, I'll be doing some longer term reviews on these bows with some of the guys who are in the shop who are ordering these, and really looking at how they shoot long range. And I think that that's really the big thing. At the end of the day, I really think that if you have a Lift, definitely a big upgrade to go to the Arc. If you just got the Lift X, you may not feel like it's necessary to upgrade. With that being said, if you haven't liked Mathews in the past, if you've been a Hoyt shooter, a PSE shooter, especially if you're maybe a Bowtech shooter in the past who has really looked for a little bit more long range shooting, I think that this bow might fit that bill. You know, it's awesome if you could come in and shoot it at like 5-10 yards without a sight. But I think where this bow is really going to excel, both in the 30 and the 34, are for those people who are really stretching it past 60 yards. Maybe not for hunting purposes, obviously, but if you're really somebody who's looking at maybe a hybrid bow for tack, or maybe, hey, I want to get into 3D shooting, I really think that 34 is going to be a sweet build for somebody who wants to do some target competition, shoot tack, and go hunting. Especially if you're out west where we tend to take longer shots than sitting in a whitetail stand. This bow is going to be what I feel, just on my initial impressions, going to be that long-range killer. I think whether you're trying to go and shoot big animals or you're just trying to shoot foam, I think that 34 is going to fit the bill for I would say 80% of the population. And if you consider that you can buy one of these bows and just spend an extra 75 bucks on the second set of mods, you can literally have a bow that you can detune for your 3D and indoor seasons by getting a 60-pound mod, maybe getting a little bit less let off, and then swapping in your 70 to 80-pound mods for hunting. I think that Mathews has really done an amazing job about being able to get you one bow that kind of can do it all with very little changes. So if you're interested, feel free to come into the shop. We have a bunch of these in stock. We have a bunch on the way. I want you to just make sure that you're testing all the bows on the market, because while I'm telling you this is a good bow, what it feels like in your hand is the most important part. Accuracy comes from being comfortable. The more comfortable you are in your bow, the more your mind can relax and focus on the target. So when you do come in, really shoot the bow, maybe shoot the bow, closing your eyes, just really try to feel these bows out. But if you haven't been a Mathews shooter in the past few years, coming in and trying the Arc, especially in my opinion, the 34, I think you're going to be greatly surprised by the feel of this bow.